Now let's move on to the condo market, where the news is in sharp contrast to the freehold market. Okay everyone, in today's video I'm going to run down the Toronto real estate market report for the month of December and run down all the stats, the numbers, the trends that you need to know about the Toronto/GTA real estate market as it stands for the month of December 2020. Everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, you can find my contact information in terms of my office, my Gmail, my Instagram in the description box. Feel free to get in touch with any questions you may have about the Toronto or the GTA real estate market, or if you need help with any matter. As well, feel free to subscribe, like, and comment. Your like and your subscription would mean a lot if you happen to enjoy this video or this channel. If not, don't do any of those things and feel free to dislike, unsubscribe, as I always say. Every month when the TREB resale report comes out officially, I run through the numbers, discuss some of the trends that I think are most important for you to know. Obviously, I cannot discuss every single thing that is included in the report, because that would be a 1 hour to 2 hour video. But if you have any further questions, please feel free to ask me via DM or email or comment. I go through the market reports. Usually I started with the average price as the first thing to discuss, but there's actually a more telling trend / stat, which is total new listings year over year, right? So this is December of 2020 as compared to December of 2019, which we saw a 66% increase December 2020 as compared to December 2019 in the number of total new listings. So total new listings actually went from 3,500 to 5,800. That's a huge increase. And the reason I attribute this to is the struggling condo market plus the hot and vibrant freehold market. You may have heard me say this in the past, but total new listings, right, in any field, in this field, obviously real estate, but when you're talking about any commodity, when a commodity is very, very hot, what do we see? We see a lot of inventory on the market from the selling side. Similarly, when the commodity is very, very cold, in the case of real estate, we see the same thing occur. We see a lot of inventory on sale from the selling side. Well, why is this the case? Well, in the market where it's very hot, as exemplified right now by the freehold market, sellers are incentivized to list their property for sale because their commodity is very hot and they can make good money off selling their property. Common sense, right? When you see something is very much so in demand and you have possession of that very thing, you're more likely to try to sell it. On the flip side, the same thing rings true from when the commodity is very cold, especially in real estate, because as exemplified by the condominium market, many of the sellers are investors and they're losing money on holding on to that commodity. Thus, they are either seeing that it has reached its economic peak for them in terms of their financials and investment portfolio. It no longer is worth their while to hold on to. They've either made the money that they were looking to make and now it's depreciating, or they're losing money and they want to cut their losses, whatever it is. They as well are listing their commodity, which in contrast to the freehold market is cold. I hope I'm communicating this clearly, that the reason we have seen such a sharp increase in total listings, because the total listings accounts for both freehold and condominium, is because both the hot freehold market is driving this figure up, and same thing applies to the cold condo market. It's also driving this figure up. Now let's go to the average selling price. In the month of December, year over year, we saw an increase of 11%. Now the average price is at $930,000 across all areas and all property types. So it's a very, very general figure. However, nonetheless, as I always say about general figures, they lead you towards the right direction, but they don't give you the full answer. So in dollar amount, it's pretty much about $100,000 increase year over year. However, month to month, the price actually fell, which is seasonal in nature, right? In November of 2020, the average price was about $955K across all property types, across all areas. and now we stand at 932. If you've watched my videos in the past, I've always said it's never a linear progression, right? I mean, it's just common sense. Certain things are seasonal. However, in the rolling average of things, even though this figure goes up or down, it's majority of the time going up. And as I have predicted several times in the past, in the year 2021, we will see where one of the months will exhibit a $1 million average price point, which would be frankly very historic. It has never occurred in the history of Toronto real estate. And back in 2016, many people were predicting that it would only occur by 2025, 2024. In regards to the total number of transactions, we saw a 64% increase year over year, which I would say in part owes its explanation to the same explanation I gave to total number of listings. Less so though. I would say it's more so the freehold market driving up this figure than the condo market. But the condo market, we are seeing a lot of transactions. It's just we're seeing a lot of transactions at low prices. That's why in other videos I actually predicted that the condo market will rebound, or rather bottom out and stagnate at a flush level much earlier than other people have predicted, is because there actually are a lot of transactions. And what I think and what I've been telling my buyers is there is the risk of a lot of investors jumping in to buy low and creating a floor. So let's jump into more specific numbers contained to more specific areas. We'll start with freehold, detached, semi-detached numbers, and then we'll jump into the condo market. So for the city of Toronto at large, the average price of a detached property for the month of December 2020 was around $1.475 million, which is exactly the same as it was in November. So month over month, it remained pretty much dead even, where in the previous month, November of 2020, it was at 1.477. So just $2,000 shy. But when you're talking about $1 million and you're comparing month over month, $2,000 is negligible at best, which usually surprisingly does not occur. We usually see more of a dip into December as compared to November, because we do see the seasonal effect taking place. Toronto Central still remained the most expensive for a detached property, an average of $2.1 million. Toronto East is still, once again, the cheapest of the Toronto West, Toronto Central for a detached property, for an average of $1.3 million in the month of December. The York region, the average price of a detached property was $1.349 million, which is up about 30 to 20K month over month. If we look at York region, right, which is in some areas very central, but further north, and other areas east, northeast or northwest. If we look at York region, interestingly enough, the numbers increase, they did not decrease. It all has to do with the fact that even though the average price of a detached, semi-detached freehold property is still less in York than it is in Toronto, nonetheless, prices have increased more than they have in Toronto, right? So you can have both, right? You can have a case where price of commodity A has increased more year over year, but it's still cheaper than commodity B, where the price of commodity B has increased, but not as much as price of commodity A, right? The point being, the fact that this average price of a detached property in Toronto at large stayed pretty much even, but the average price of a detached property in York actually increased, really shows you how much demand and how much of an influx York region is feeling as a result of this pandemic, and other reasons as well. I mean, proximity to work is not necessarily the biggest issue anymore, and people want more space, more lawn space, more backyard area. People are really flooding York region and moving towards the northwest, northeast area. And this also has to do with several other factors as well. You know, there is more infrastructure occurring there, and there is more development, and living in Richmond Hill is no longer living outside the city. I mean, I was actually raised in Richmond Hill, and I went to school in downtown, and my commute was at most, on the worst days, maybe like 55 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe 1 hour here and there. But I had a pretty good commute from Richmond Hill to downtown to go to university. Now, let's move on to the condo market, where the news is in sharp contrast to the freehold market. So let's start with the average price of a condominium across the city of Toronto. So that's Toronto West, that's Toronto East, that's Toronto Central, right? The average price of a condominium across the entirety of Toronto was $625,000, which is about a $15,000 decrease month to month, because in the preceding month we saw an average price of $640,000. but that's month to month. Year over year, it's down as well, going from $656,000 for 2019 to $625,000 as previously stated. So by both measures, it's down, and that's going to become a familiar concept to you. Once we look at Toronto Central and specific areas within Toronto Central, we see the biggest drops. So the average price of a condominium in Toronto Central at large was $669,000, which is about $50,000 to $60,000 drop year over year, dropping from $733,000 for the year of 2019, December 2019 to be exact. And the month-to-month numbers were not any better, because in the preceding month, the average price was $697,000. And once again, where we are at now is $669,000. So once more, by both measures, it's once again a drop in price. Now let us just look at downtown, C1, right? If you see C1 on the map, that's what most people consider downtown. Now, obviously, downtown is more than just C1, but the core of the condo market, the majority of it is contained to C1. You have some C2, C8 as well. Let's not forget about that. But, you know, having said that, C1, the average price was actually $683,000, which, if I were to predict this last month or 2 months prior, I would have predicted a bigger drop, believe it or not. Not to say this is any good news for sellers and any bad news for buyers. It's still great news for buyers and bad news for sellers. But I'm surprised that it's actually only $10,000, because the preceding month it was $693,000. So it went from $693,000 to $683,000 month over month. But once again, year over year, now this is the truly alarming number, because we saw a drop from $772,000 to $683,000. That's about a $90,000 drop in average price, which is pretty congruent with November's numbers as compared to November of last year. We once again saw about $80,000 to $90,000 drop in average prices for month of November of 2020 as compared to November of 2019. I would like to apologize and thank you for watching this entire video. I want to apologize because it was way too long. I want to thank you if you happen to watch the entire thing. Subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And as I said, there's so much more to talk about. Unfortunately, I can't do it all in one video. I will do it in future videos. So subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Get in touch with me if you have any questions. This is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Realtron Realty Inc. My contact info in the description. Stay safe. Thank you.